It's 8:30 at night. A child, maybe 6 years old, is tucked under a patchwork quilt. The lamp on the nightstand casts a soft yellow glow, and her mom, still in her work clothes, shoes kicked off at the door, is sitting on the edge of the bed asking a question. Not, "Did you finish your homework?" Not, "Were you good today?" She asks, "What was the best part of your day, and what was the hardest part?" The little girl thinks, really thinks, and then she answers. If you grew up in a different culture, this moment might look small, ordinary even. But what this mother is doing without a textbook, without a therapist, is building something inside her daughter that most adults spend years trying to find. Dr. John Gottman at the University of Washington spent over 30 years studying families, watching parents and children interact in real time. What he found was striking. Children whose parents regularly practiced what he called emotion coaching, naming feelings, asking reflective questions, validating emotional experience, showed dramatically better outcomes across almost every measure of child development. We're talking about stronger friendships, better focus in school, even fewer sick days, not because they were smarter, because they understood themselves. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the 3 things happening inside this bedtime ritual, 3 invisible skills that American parents are quietly building in their children every single night. And I'll be honest with you, there's one of these that I personally find really hard to do consistently. We'll get there. But first, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds very American. My culture doesn't work like this. I hear you, and the science behind what you're about to see isn't American at all. It's just that American families stumbled into a daily practice that happens to match exactly what developmental psychology has discovered about how children build inner lives. Let's look at what's actually happening. The first thing this ritual teaches is something American families call the rose and the thorn, or in some homes, just highs and lows. It's disarmingly simple. Before bed, every person in the family shares one good thing from their day and one hard thing. In many homes around the world, the end of the day is for rest or maybe a brief check on homework and chores. The emotional content of the day is private, or it belongs to adults. Children are expected to move on, not process. American parents do something different. They treat the end of the day like a small debrief, a ritual of narration. Here's what I find fascinating about this. When a child tells you, "The hardest part of my day was when Mia didn't sit with me at lunch," they're not just sharing information. They're doing something their brain desperately needs. They're converting a raw emotional experience into a story. And that conversion, that act of putting feelings into words, is one of the most powerful things a developing brain can do. Psychologists call this affect labeling. You might know it by a simpler phrase, name it to tame it. Research from the UCLA Mindful Awareness Research Center found that simply labeling an emotion, putting a word to a feeling, measurably reduces the brain's stress response. In children who do this regularly, the emotional centers of the brain become less reactive over time. Not suppressed, regulated. There's a difference. The second thing American parents are building, often without realizing it, is what I call narrative memory. Here's the thing nobody tells you about children's brains. A young child doesn't naturally store experiences the way we think they do. A hard moment during the day, a conflict with a friend, a disappointment, a small failure doesn't automatically get filed and processed. It floats. It can come out as a meltdown at dinner, as clinginess at bedtime, as a nightmare at 2 a.m. What the bedtime ritual does is create a container. It gives the day a shape. Beginning, middle, end, best part, hardest part. Done. Picture this. A 7-year-old named Marcus. All afternoon, something was off. He was quiet, a little withdrawn, snapping at his younger sister over nothing. His dad noticed, but said nothing at dinner. Then, at bedtime, he asked the question, "What was the hardest part of today, bud?" Long pause, and then, Coach didn't pick me for the relay race. He picked Tyler. That's it. That's what the whole afternoon was about. Once it was named once, Marcus could put words to it, his dad didn't fix it. He didn't explain it away. He just said, "That stings. I get it. You worked hard." Marcus was asleep in 10 minutes. Dr. Dan Siegel at UCLA, one of the most respected names in child brain development, calls this process connect and redirect. When a child narrates their experience with a caring adult, they're not just venting. They're integrating the experience into long-term memory in a way that doesn't leave emotional residue. Children who do this regularly show stronger working memory and better ability to handle future setbacks, because they've practiced, night after night, the skill of making sense of hard things. The third thing this ritual builds is perhaps the most important, and the one I personally find hardest. It builds a child who feels worth listening to. In many cultures, including my own, the parent's role is to guide, to correct, to prepare. We listen to know what to fix. We ask questions to assess. The child is the student. The parent is the teacher. American parents in this tradition do something subtly different. At bedtime, they become the unhurried listener. There's no phone, no correcting, no pivoting to, "Well, here's what you should have done." The one rule is just listen. Follow their lead. Be genuinely curious. Here's what I find fascinating about this. Over time, the child internalizes the experience of being heard, and a child who has been genuinely heard consistently develops something psychologists call a secure internal working model, a deep unconscious belief that their inner world matters, that their feelings are real and worth expressing. That belief, more than grades, more than talent, is what researchers at Harvard Center on the Developing Child connect to long-term resilience. Children with this inner security bounce back from failure faster. They ask for help more readily. They develop richer friendships. I want to be honest with you for a second. Some nights after a long day, when the kids are finally in bed and all you want is 10 minutes of silence, being fully present for the hardest part of my day is genuinely hard for me. I catch myself half listening, nodding, waiting for the end. And that's human. But it's worth noticing, because the research is pretty clear. It's not the length of the ritual that matters, it's the quality of the attention. So here's your one thing for tonight. Just one. When your child is in bed, whether that's a 5-year-old or a 12-year-old, ask 2 questions. That's it. What was the best part of your day? What was the hardest part? Then stop talking. Wait for the real answer. Not the quick one, the real one. Do that for 1 week, 7 bedtimes, and pay attention to what you notice, not just in them, but in yourself. The most self-aware adults I know were once children who had someone ask them how they really felt and actually waited to hear the answer. If this changed the way you see your child, subscribe to Bloom School. There's a lot more coming, and every video is built around the same idea. The wisdom was always there. We just need to know where to look.